Hi, it's Jacob. In case you haven't heard, I just launched a brand new podcast with my wife, Blake, which is all about how to be your own boss. It's called the BYOB Podcast. Together, we have over 2 decades of entrepreneurial experience, and we are both 7-figure entrepreneurs, authors, speakers, parents, and partners in everything we do. If you want to learn how to be your own boss, check it out at byobpodcast.com or take our quiz to see if you have what it takes to be an entrepreneur at beyourownbossquiz.com. Make sure to follow me on Spotify or subscribe to the show on your favorite platform. You can do so easily by going to futureofworkpodcast.com. And lastly, please do me a favor, rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred platform is. It really helps spread the word about the show, and I personally appreciate it. The world is changing quickly. What do you need to know and do in order to be successful now and in the future? From leadership to the future of work to employee experience, this show will give you the insights and the tools you need to succeed and thrive professionally and personally. Make sure to follow me on Spotify or subscribe to the show on your favorite platform. You can do so easily by going to futureofworkpodcast.com. Also, please rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred platform is. It really helps spread the word about the show, and I personally appreciate it. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Future of Work with Jacob Morgan. I am Jacob Morgan, and today you get just me. So today I have no interview, no CEO or business leader who's joining me. I'm just going to be sharing some content on my own, which I do these every now and then. Either I get some questions that come my way, or there's a piece of very popular content that people want me to explore, or sometimes, honestly, it's because I had guests scheduled and they bail or scheduling conflicts come up, and I have to record an episode on my own. And so that is what we are doing today. And today I actually wanted to share something that I shared in my newsletter a couple of weeks ago. And it is a couple stories, a couple behind the scenes stories of 2 CEOs and what put them on their path to success. But first, I just wanted to share a couple updates because a lot of people always ask me, what are you working on? What's going on? Like all of you, COVID has been not very pleasant. And so, I have 2 kids at home. I have a 4-year-old, I have a 4-month-old, 2 dogs, my wife, myself. My wife has her business, I have my business. So probably like all of you, we're constantly trying to juggle the madness of everything. And I'd say the hardest part of all of this is schooling for a 4-year-old. I mean, we have a nanny who comes and helps us out. But not having school for Naomi has been tough, constantly trying to find activities for her to do. A lot of things are closed. Thankfully, things are starting to open up a little bit now, which has made it a little bit easier. And depending on where you are in the world, things are either more closed or more open. I'm in the Bay Area in California, and things are just now starting to open up slightly. So we're being given a little bit more freedom and flexibility. But, I got to be honest, I've been trying to find time to get work done when I can. I don't think my productivity has gone down too much, maybe a little bit, but it's a challenge, right? You work when you can. You gotta put the kids first, and so we're making do, probably like all of you. We had the fires here in the Bay Area, which was extremely unpleasant. I can't tell you how creepy it is to wake up in the morning, go outside, and you literally see an orange sky. So that combined with COVID made it really, really hard where you can't even go outside. But thankfully, things are getting better now. We got some clean air. We are approaching the end of the year. Holidays are coming up. I just got my brand new Apple Watch. My wife got hers. Got my new iPhone coming in the mail. So things are looking up. Things are trending in the right direction. Trying to stay positive, trying to stay optimistic. But again, I'm sure what I'm going through, what my family is going through is not unique. A lot of us are very much in the same boat, and we're doing the best that we can. I think that's, I don't know if there are any other really big updates. The Future Leader course has been out for a little bit, which if you're interested in checking out, you can go to futureleadercourse.com. That's been doing phenomenally well. A lot of people have been signing up for that from all over the world, people looking to really step up their leadership game. And again, I won't go into too much in depth about that. You can learn more if you want at futureleadercourse.com. So that's pretty much it. What's going on? I mean, the holidays coming up. Going to spend some time with family, visit Los Angeles where my family is, and kind of hang out there a little bit. So that's it. That's what's going on in the world of the Morgan. So now let me jump into what I wanted to go over today, and it's sharing a couple stories from CEOs that I had the pleasure of interviewing over the past few months. And this is something that I did share in my newsletter, which if you are interested in signing up for, you can go to thefutureorganization.com/newsletter. And I received a lot of amazing feedback on these stories because, as you may know, I interviewed 140 CEOs for my book, The Future Leader, and I've been trying to really learn a little bit more about CEOs, not just on the professional level, but on the personal level. What did they have to go through? Where did they come from? How did they get to be CEOs and leaders of big global organizations? And people really love those stories, the kind of behind the scenes stuff. So today I'm going to share two of them. And these are the CEOs from two big global organizations. The first is the CEO of Honeywell, David Cote, and he recently stepped down, so he's the former CEO. And the second is the CEO of a company called PTC. Jim Heppelman is the CEO there. And by the way, if you are interested in hearing more about these CEOs, I did full 60-minute conversations with both of them. If you go to futureofworkpodcast.com, you will be able to see a list of all the episodes there. You can scroll down and you can listen to the full conversations. So before we jump into these interviews, I want you to just kind of think about this for a minute. What is it that you think makes a successful leader? Some people say it's luck. Some people say skill. Some people say determination. Maybe it's a combination of all three. But one of the things that I've learned from being able to work with and interview and spend time with a lot of CEOs and business leaders around the world is that they all have a very unique story. I mean, we all have unique stories of where we came from, how we got to where we are. You know, in my case, my family came from the Republic of Georgia, didn't speak any English, had no money when they came to America. And, they although my parents were both born in Tbilisi, Georgia, they met in Italy. They got married in Australia, which is where I was born. And then we ultimately ended up in the United States. So everyone has like this fascinating, this cool story that a lot of us just are not familiar with and we don't explore it enough. And that's really what I wanted to do. And like I said, we all have really fascinating and interesting stories. Sometimes we overcome great obstacles. Sometimes we break through with something with innovation or grit. And if you were to just read these stories or hear the stories that I'm going to share with you today, you would never guess that the people who I'm talking about are CEOs of billion-dollar organizations. You just wouldn't guess. You would just think they're a kind of an ordinary person, an ordinary Joe. And so I want to jump into the first story, and this is the story from the CEO of Honeywell, David Cote. And I had the opportunity to spend some time with him. And his story of becoming CEO was not very traditional. Now, first, let me give you a little bit of context around Honeywell and David Cote. So during his time at Honeywell, David was able to fix a very toxic corporate culture, and he grew the company's market cap from around 20 billion to 120 billion, delivering returns of 800%. So we're talking about massive growth, massive success. But his journey to becoming CEO is really not ordinary. When he was younger, he nearly quit high school because although he was good at school, he really didn't like it. And, I very much fall into the same boat. I did not like school when I was younger either. But David ended up sticking with it, and he became the first one in his family to graduate high school. After that, he was accepted to the University of New Hampshire, but he decided he didn't want to pursue college. So he went to go work as a mechanic with his dad in a small garage. And that too did not really pan out, didn't go anywhere. So he ended up going to Michigan to work as a carpenter with his uncle. He did that for a bit, and then he learned he wasn't really good at that either, and he didn't really enjoy it. So he decided he was going to enlist in the Navy for 6 years to work on a nuclear submarine. And the day before he was supposed to swear in, he calls up the chief petty officer, and he says, "Hey, what would happen if I didn't show up tomorrow? Are you able to send the cops to my house and arrest me or force me to show up?" And the chief petty officer says, "No." And he didn't show up. After that, David decided he did want to try college again. But after 2 years there, the assistant dean of students told him that he couldn't live on campus anymore because he was being too much of a troublemaker. So he needed money. He decided to get a job working a second shift while going to school, which he did for 6 months. And second shift means evenings. And a buddy of David, a buddy of his, invited him to go work with him on a fishing boat in Maine, which David did. But he was spending so much time on this boat that he ended up doing really poorly in school. So again, he decided to quit. Shortly after that, he ended up getting married, and 1 month later, his wife was pregnant with their first child. David says that this is the moment he realized he needed to change his life. And I remember when I was talking to David, he said that he was so scared that his child would die. He actually said, "I thought my child would die. I can't bring a child into the world that I'm in because I have no resources. We're living in pretty much poverty. I don't have money to raise this child, to support this child. So they're going to die. They're not going to be able to live. I'm not going to be able to take care of them." And that moment really snapped David back into shape. That was the pivotal moment that set him on his career trajectory. And from that moment, he had a purpose and a focus that brought him to where he is now, or where he was as the CEO of Honeywell. Even when David became the CEO of Honeywell, he had to deal with a very toxic corporate culture. People were hiding things from him. They were doing things behind his back. Again, I won't get into all the crazy details of what happened. You can listen to the full episode of that at futureofworkpodcast.com. But what I did want to share from David were a couple pieces of advice just to kind of wrap up his story. And I thought David gave some really good advice, both on leadership and also for people who are stuck in their jobs. So David's advice for anyone who's leading through tough times, which is a lot of us, he had 4 pieces of advice. First is don't panic. I have seen this firsthand with leaders, with family members, with friends. We panic. We make decisions that we shouldn't be making, that we normally wouldn't make. Don't panic. Second is make sure that you keep thinking independently. It's very easy to see what somebody else is doing, to read something online, to be influenced by a friend or family member. And all of a sudden you realize that you're not really thinking in your own head. You're thinking and doing things based on what somebody else is doing. So remember that as a leader, you have to make sure that you are thinking independently all the time. Now, as a business owner, more the business context, David also said that never forget to put the customer first, which I think is very logical and sound advice. And the last piece of advice he had is be thinking about the recovery even while you're in the middle of a recession. And this piece of advice I loved, because when things are not going well, it's very tempting for us to assume that that's our world, that's our life, that's what's happening. But as we know in the world of business, as we know in life, we go through ups and we go through downs. And if you are in a down right now, which a lot of people are, you need to remember that it will get to an up. And you need to be thinking about what you're going to do, how you're going to take advantage when things start to swing in the other way. What can you be doing? What can you be building? What can you be focusing on? So that when things start going in the direction of the recovery, you're going to be there. You have to think positively. You have to be optimistic. And so those were his pieces of advice. Don't panic. Think independently. Never forget to put the customer first. And even during a recession, you need to make sure that you are thinking about the recovery. The other really interesting piece of advice that David had was for people who feel stuck in their jobs or in their careers. And you might feel like that. I've certainly felt like that at various points in my life. And sometimes you don't feel like there's a career progression. Sometimes you don't feel like you're being recognized. Sometimes you don't feel like there's any visibility into the work that you're doing. And a lot of people, let's be honest, right now we're going through a process of reinvention. A lot of people are switching jobs, switching careers, becoming entrepreneurs even. Which, by the way, if you're interested in that, my wife and I recently put out a podcast, byobpodcast.com, where we teach and share everything that we learned about being entrepreneurs over the past 20 years combined experience so that you can be your own boss too. So you can check that out, byobpodcast.com. So a couple pieces of advice for those of you who feel stuck in your job that David provided. First is you have to be able to deliver great quality work. So David stressed that even if you're at a job where you are not happy, your performance cannot suffer. And he said your performance can't just be okay. But he says he wants you to do, try to be in the top 10%. The top 10%, where even if you're not happy, still over-deliver and produce great quality work. Because what starts to happen is if you become upset and frustrated and the quality of your work goes down, now all of a sudden you have challenges. Now all of a sudden you might be let go. You might be demoted in some situations. So you still want to make sure that of all the challenges and the problems that you might have at the company, the quality of work that you produce and what you got hired to do is not one of them. As David said, you have to be a standout in everything that you do. The second piece of advice that David gave is you need visibility. If you are performing extremely well inside your organization, but the person who can do something about your career can't see it, then nothing is going to happen. So you need to make sure that you have visibility. People can see the work that you're doing. But David said you also need to be careful with this because you don't want to go around tooting your own horn and wearing your ambition on your sleeve. There's a delicate balance. But remember that if you are doing great quality work, you need to make sure that you are getting visibility for that great quality work. People are seeing the work that you are doing. And the last piece of advice that David had is if you have a boss or a leader who you don't feel, who doesn't feel that you're performing as well as you think you are, this is where you need to have a little bit of self-awareness and figure out, is there something that you can fix or do you just have a bad boss? Which David says happens less often than people think. Meaning that sometimes it's not the boss that you have who is bad. It is your level of self-awareness, which is maybe not aligned. Meaning that you think you're doing a really good job at something. So there's the internal and the external self-awareness piece. Internally, you think you're rocking it. You're doing amazing. But the external self-awareness does not align. Meaning that the quality of work that you're doing does not align with how other people view your quality of work. And actually, we see this firsthand. So in the work that I did for my book, The Future Leader, I found this to be the case, especially with leaders. But we all think we're better listeners than we really are. We all think we're better drivers than we really are. When it comes to leadership, specifically the skills and mindsets that I talked about in my book, I found that a lot of leaders themselves they think they're doing a great job of practicing the skills and mindsets to become a future-ready leader. They think they're doing a great job, but the people who work for these leaders say they're not doing a great job. So the issue of self-awareness is a very real one. So make sure that how you view yourself, your strengths, your weaknesses, your quality of work aligns with how your boss, your leader, views you as well. A simple way that you can do that is you start to have a conversation with them. Open up dialogue. This is how I think I'm doing. Is this how you think I'm doing? This is what I think my strengths and weaknesses are. Would you agree? Have that open dialogue. So that's what I wanted to share from David Cote, the former CEO of Honeywell. And again, I encourage you to listen to the full episode, which you can do at futureofworkpodcast.com. The second story that I want to share with you today is from Jim Heppelman. He's the CEO of a company called PTC. They're a technology software company. They have 6,500 employees in 30 countries. Jim has received a lot of awards for being a Internet of Things leader to watch, IoT CEO of the year, technology CEO of the year. So he's received a lot of really fascinating awards, recognition, accomplishment for the work that he's been doing, especially in the world of technology. And his path to becoming CEO was a little bit different than David's. David, I mentioned, didn't have a path, didn't have a direction. He grew up in, with not a lot of means. He would even describe it as poverty. But Jim's path was a little bit different. Jim actually grew up on a dairy farm in Minnesota, and he was one of eight children, which, my wife and I, we have 2 kids. I cannot imagine having 8 children and or being I have a brother. I can't imagine having 6 other siblings, although I suppose having a great big family is probably fun during the holidays too. But for Jim, it was his upbringing on the farm where he really learned the value of hard work, the ability to take things apart and put them back together, which is, with farm equipment and machinery, he was doing a lot of that. And that's in part where he learned about mechanical engineering. He told me that the first thing that he ever bought with his own money was a set of socket wrenches. And it was actually one of his older sisters who inspired him to attend college and study to become an engineer in the first place. And after his older sister graduated from college and got her first job, she was already making as much money as their parents. And Jim was amazed by that. So he thought that he could do the same. So engineering brought him to college. And when he got there, he fell in love with computer science. And he studied at the intersection of where software meets engineering, which actually turned out to be great because now he's the CEO of a company that produces software for engineers. And again, the path is not conventional. Growing up on a dairy farm. In fact, he still has a farm where, that's where he wakes up and he still takes care of his animals when he wakes up first thing in the morning. So he keeps that farm aspect of life with him, and it instilled this culture, this mentality of hard work, this figuring things out, problem solving on your own. Very different path than David's. And again, very unconventional. If I were to show you this dairy farmer and say, hey, what do you think is going to happen to this dairy farmer? You'd never guess he's going to be the CEO of a 6,500 person company. So I wanted to share a little bit. There were a couple of things that I found very, very fascinating from my conversation with Jim. The first thing is his approach to work-life balance. When I talked to Jim, he was one of the most calm, relaxed, mellow, chill people that I've talked to. Now, he's very passionate about the work that he does, but he's relaxed. The guy has a farm where he's able to look after his animals all the time. He not only leads the organization, but he makes time to spend with his family. He takes care of the animals on his farm. He also cooks for his family. But he told me that wasn't always the case. And this is kind of a caution and something that I thought about myself in my life. He said that when he first became the CEO, he was burning the candle at both ends. He tried to do everything on his own. And he was working nonstop. He was putting in crazy hours, weekends, nights, evenings, whatever it took. And over time, he learned that was not sustainable. And when he was describing this story, and I want to read this quote, he said, "What I should do is focus my energy where I really bring a lot of value to the table." And again, this tends to be around product strategies and market strategies and messaging and competitive analysis. And I should let somebody else manage the financial planning. Let somebody else take care of the professional services and things like that. Because I don't need to do that, and I don't bring a tremendous amount of quality and value to it. It's nothing super unique or special that I can do. And at the end of the day, you have to pick your battles. There's just not enough time for a leader to be in charge of everything. So I became a lot happier after I realized I should roll with the punches and just add value where I think I can add the most value. And I thought that was great advice because when I first became an entrepreneur, I tried to do everything on my own. Even as my business was becoming successful, I didn't want to hire anybody. I did everything. I took care of the website stuff. I took care of content. I was my own assistant, scheduling meetings, literally everything I did. And I would work till 2 a.m, till 3 a.m. And finally I was like, what the hell is going on? And even my wife was like, dude, you could afford to pay somebody to help you. Why don't you do that? And getting help and sort of getting that level of self-awareness was, I think, one of the best things that I've ever done. And I love that piece of advice for Jim that Jim gave, because we all feel, I think sometimes, that we can do everything, that we should do everything. But the reality is that we should just focus on where we can add the most amount of value. And we should remember that don't take everything on yourself. Don't assume that you need to have all the answers, because you will get burned out. And the important lesson here is surround yourself with people who are good at what you are not good at, and rely on them to take care of things for you. If you're a part of a team where everybody has the same strengths and the same weaknesses, that's a problem. You want to be a part of a team and you want to hire people where other people's strengths augment your weaknesses. That's how you need to be thinking about this. And I love that piece of advice. The other piece of advice that I wanted to share from Jim and his story is about battling entrenched thinking. Sometimes for ourselves, for our teams, our organizations, we feel like we are battling this old way of thinking and doing things. And I feel like this all the time because I speak with a lot of organizations. I work with a lot of organizations. I give a lot of talks to these organizations. And honestly, sometimes I do feel like I'm bashing my head against the wall, because the conventional way of thinking is so entrenched in a lot of organizations that it's impossible to get out. It's sort of like a very stubborn carpet stain that has sunk deep down into the fibers of the carpet. And no matter how hard you try to get it out, you can't. You have to replace the carpet. I know that's really a weird analogy, but I have dogs and a 4-year-old, and they spill things, and the dogs have accidents on our carpet. I'm constantly cleaning carpets and dealing with tough stains, both at home and in the business context of getting leaders to change their way of thinking. And Jim gave a couple of really great pieces of advice that I wanted to share with you. First, he says one of the ways that he was able to get the culture changed at PTC to challenge, to move away from an entrenched way of thinking is make change part of your company branding. Create a company culture that likes change. And part of what Jim did is he created slogans, culture, values. Things like take a fresh look is one of their slogans, is part of their values. And so everything that the company did and everything that the company does, they constantly think about, can we take a fresh look at something? So make this concept of challenging entrenched thinking a part of your company branding. What your company stands for, part of your messaging, how you convey things during meetings with customers. This is a part of your branding. Second, what Jim did, which he said was very helpful, is lead by example. Live out the values that you want to see inside your company. If you want your employees to embrace change, guess what? Who's going to be the first one to embrace change? You are. If you want your coworkers to embrace change, you want other people around you to do things differently, who's the first one that has to do things differently? You do. I can't tell you how many times I've seen and talked to leaders inside of organizations who say, I wish my team would be more innovative. I wish they would come to me with their problems. I wish they would do this and that and this. And I say, well, are you doing it? And they would say, well, no. Well, then how can you ask other people to do it if you yourself are not doing it? So be the change that you want to see inside your company. Lead by example. Make sure that other people know that it's not about just making one change and staying there. It's about constant change. The point is to try to be the company that changes with time, to be the leader, the employee that changes with time. Meaning you can't be pinned down because you're constantly changing and adapting. So lead by example. This can sometimes be frustrating and tough because you might say, well, I'm doing it, nobody else is. Keep doing it. Change takes time. The next piece of advice that Jim gave is celebrate change. Recognize individuals who step out and do something differently, even if what they tried didn't work. And this, I think, is a great piece of advice for leaders, is look at your team, look at your company. Who is challenging convention? Who is doing something differently? Celebrate them. Acknowledge them. Tell stories about them. Let other people know that when you try to do things differently, you're not going to be reprimanded. You're not going to be fired. You're going to be celebrated for trying to think outside of the box, for trying to challenge convention. So those are Jim's piece of advice. Make change a part of your company branding, lead by example, and celebrate change. So these are the two stories that I wanted to share with you today from Jim, from David Cote, and from Jim Heppelman. And I really want you to think about your story, where you came from, what you've accomplished, what you've done. Because every leader has their own unique path to greatness. Every individual has their own unique path to unlock their potential, who they are. We all deal with our own challenges and obstacles, but it's also really important, and this is the thing that I want to stress the most. Where you are now does not dictate where you can go and what you can achieve. Your past does not dictate where you can go and what you can achieve. I mean, I shared this earlier, right? My family came from complete poverty. Republic of Georgia. I actually went back, I proposed to my wife, Blake, in the Republic of Georgia. I went back to see where my parents lived. My mom lived in a tool shed with 5 other people. My dad, when I went back to see where he lived, and I kid you not, I mean, this is a building that would be condemned by any standards. So we went to go visit the building where my dad grew up. We walked into the house, and the entire floor is slanted. Now, I don't mean slanted as in like you put a marble on one end of the floor and it'll slowly and delicately roll to the other side. I mean, there is a big, significant tilt. Like, it is crooked. It is at a significant slant. He lived in, I mean, the floors were not even straight. It was one room on an angle. That's where he lived. That's where he grew up. And I was shocked. Like, you know, when I was younger, my parents would always say, oh, you know, this is what we had to do. This is what we overcame. And, you know, you should be so grateful. And I would say, yeah, whatever. Until I finally went back and I saw where they grew up, where they came from, where they lived, met some of their old friends, heard stories. Again, the importance of all of this is to share that your past does not dictate your future. Your present does not dictate your future. This is part of what having a growth mindset is all about. Those of you who have a fixed mindset believe that you cannot grow, you cannot develop, you can't get better, you cannot become more successful, you cannot become more talented or capable. That's garbage. It's BS. Get that out of your head. Having a growth mindset is all about understanding and believing the exact opposite. You can grow, you can develop, you can become more successful, more capable, more talented, better at whatever it is that you want to do. That's the mindset that you need to have. And again, you can look at these two stories of Jim and David. If David had that fixed mindset, he would have never become the CEO of Honeywell. Who knows where he would have ended up? Living in poverty, uneducated, not doing much with himself. But again, that growth mindset, changing his life around, the birth of his child, really put things into perspective for him. Same thing with Jim. Again, would you look at a dairy farmer and say you're one day going to become the CEO of a 6,500 person company? Nope, probably not. So I hope these two stories motivate you and inspire you and push you and get you to realize that you can build and shape a future that you want to have for yourself. And I'd love to hear from you. Email me, jacob@thefutureorganization.com. Do you have a story that you think is interesting to tell? Or not even interesting, just a story, your story. I love reading these stories. I get a lot of emails from people. And I'd also love to hear your feedback on these types of episodes. Do you like when I share these types of stories, some of these solo episodes that I do? Or do you prefer to only have me and a guest? I won't take offense, but I'd love to hear from you because ultimately this podcast is for you to add value to your life, to add value to your career, to everything that you're doing. So let me know, jacob@thefutureorganization.com. And of course, if you get a couple seconds, please don't forget, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. I read all of them. I love all of them. And I appreciate all of the support that all of you have been providing through email, through the content, through podcasts, through books, through everything. I really appreciate it. Nothing that I do would be possible without all of you. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I will see you next time on The Future of Work with Jacob Morgan. Thanks again for tuning into The Future of Work with Jacob Morgan. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please remember to follow me on Spotify, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or your favorite platform at futureofworkpodcast.com. And also, don't forget to check out my brand new podcast on entrepreneurship with my wife, Blake, at byobpodcast.com. If you want to reach out to me about sponsoring the show, or if you just have feedback for me, please send me an email, jacob@thefutureorganization.com. And of course, I would love a review or a rating on Apple Podcasts or whatever your preferred channel is.